familia.
Welcome.
I just wish I could speak Spanish, but I can't.
I can help.
Él sabe, nomás no entiende tanto. Él puede decirlo un poco, y entonces le entiende un poquitito nomás. Es un poco slow.
Okay, here's the.
What are we doing?
Here's the question. All right. It says, have you ever published another work under any other name besides Stanley? ¿Ustedes entienden lo que estoy diciendo?
Yes.
Years ago, before I got into the comic book business, I did a little story in a magazine called Stag. It was a magazine for men. It was just a 2-page story, and I used my original name, Stanley Lieber. But that's the only time. After that, everything I ever wrote was under the name Stanley. Did I say that okay? In English, too. All right.
What is your creation? What is your creative process to develop a new character?
You have to do a lot of thinking. The first thing you do to develop a new character is you have to think, what would anybody be interested in? What would somebody want to read about or hear about? If you get that idea, then you have to say, well, how can I write it to make it interesting? And then you just start writing. And my big test is, if it interests me, maybe it'll interest the reader also. So I try to write things that interest me. And if I don't like it, I'm not going to write it, because if I don't like it, why should you like it? But if I do like it, you'd better like it.
Next question is, what does Marvel mean to you?
Oh, well, Marvel, I've spent most of my life working at Marvel, so it means a lot to me. In fact, I gave the company the name Marvel. They used to be called Atlas Comics. And after we did the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and Spider-Man, and I saw we had a whole new audience that cared about the books, I said, we ought to change the name, get a better name. And we called ourselves Marvel. So it means a lot to me. It's been my whole life, really.
Next question is, if you weren't Stan the Man Lee, who would you be?
If I weren't Stan the Man Lee, who would I be? Well, maybe I'd be Joe the Doe, or I don't know. I've always been Stan the Man Lee, as far as I can remember. You know, it's funny, there used to be a baseball player when I was a kid in New York named Stan Musial. And he was a big player, and his nickname was Stan the Man. And I was only about 8 or 10 years old, and I thought, gee, what a great nickname. It must be great to be called Stan the Man. I never thought someday I'd be known that way, so I really love it. I wouldn't want anything else. I don't want to think of what else it would be. Pay attention, these people are waiting.
How do you feel being in Mexico?
I love Mexico. I love the Mexicans. I love all of you, and I feel great being here. And you are wonderful hosts.
We love you, Stan! We love you!
Okay. Vamos a... ¿Quieren un poquito más de preguntas? Entonces voy a escoger al azar, no los conozco, es lo bueno. Una pregunta para Stan, rápido.
¿Qué bueno?
Let him speak up, I can hear it.
Okay.
Okay. Who would choose?
Habla español.
Para mandar.
Habla español. That means speak in Spanish. I think that's right.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Max.
¿Qué superpoder quisiera tener? O le doy un inglés.
¿Cómo?
What superpower?
Oh, she's asking, if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Luck. Because if you're lucky, you've got everything.
How did he become his heroes?
What inspired you to make your heroes?
To make the heroes?
Yes.
Well, if I just did a book of villains, I don't think people would read it, so I figured I'd better write heroes. And it's fun. When I was a little kid, I loved heroes. There was an actor named Errol Flynn who played Robin Hood and all those roles, and he was my idol. I always thought, when I grow up, I want to be a hero like him. But I never became Robin Hood, so I'm still a failure.
Max, which of his stories would have preferred to be for a more mature audience?
You lost me in your translation.
Okay, ¿qué historia le gustaría que fuese más para gente más madura?
He's asking if you were to write more of an adult, not so much.
Tengo el primero.
What does it feel to be standalone?
I think my comics are adult stories. No, actually, it's funny that you say that, because people very often ask me, what age readers do I write for? And I don't think of the age. I write stories that I hope anybody would enjoy. I try to make them understandable enough that a young child can understand it and enjoy it. And I hope I can make them intelligent enough that somebody older will enjoy it. So I don't write for any age. I really write to please me. If I like this story, I figure I'm not that unique. There must be a lot of other people who have the same taste that I do. So if I like it, other people will like it too. And it's as simple as that.
¿Qué personaje ha sido el más difícil de crear?
More difficult?
Yeah, great.
Which character?
No, ya te déjame ir un momento.
Good question. They've all been pretty easy, but maybe Dr. Strange. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Strange.
Yeah!
But the thing about him, you know, when he performs his magic, I didn't want to use some corny expression like abracadabra or something like that. So I had to make up incantations for him. So I had to think of things for him to say, like, by the hoary hosts of Hoggoth, or by the shades of the shadowy seraphim, and things like that. So that was pretty tough, but I must admit it was also brilliant.
Yeah.
Cuando hacía un personaje ya sabía las historias que iba a tener o las que iba creando en el momento que lo iba desarrollando.
He's asking when you were creating your stories, was it something that you really had in mind, or is it something that came to you?
No, I didn't have them in my mind. It's a funny thing. I'm not a guy who walks around thinking of stories. I'm usually thinking of a million other things, like, I hope I remembered to bring home the bananas that my wife told me to bring home. You know, important things. But when I have to write a story, that's when I sit down and think about it. But I'm not one of these writers that is thinking of stories all the time. In fact, I never think of them until I have to write them.
Okay, Max, cuando creó, los X-Men ahora son un símbolo de la diversidad, que si al crearlos él lo pensó de esa manera.
When you created the X-Men, their kids at the university, is that your intention to be
No, I never figured that the age of the character is the age of the people who read them. For example, Iron Man was a grown man, about 30 years old. So I didn't figure only 30-year-olds would read him. I hoped that teenagers and everybody would read him. The age of the character is just however old he has to be for the story. But I'm hoping that anybody I write, young people, old people, middle-aged people, they'll all like to read them. Did I answer that? Did I get the question right? All right, thank you. I like when you say I did perfect. Oh, is that nice? It's in Spanish, and it's for me.
No,
So I'll keep it.
No.
All right.
But look, they put it all beautiful. But here's the bad part.
All of our stuff is published in Spanish, isn't it? Is that Batman back there? Now, the guy who created Batman, Bob Kane, he was a good friend of mine, so I don't mind if you don't have to read Batman, but you can look at it.
¿Qué es más difícil, escribir o dibujar?
Escribirlo. He only writes.
Yeah,
But he doesn't draw.
yeah, but what
Who doesn't draw?
what he thinks is more hard?
Which one's harder to do, you think?
Write or draw?
To be a writer or to be a writer?
Well, if you already are an artist, that's pretty easy to do. I think being a writer is tougher, because even if you're a writer, every time you're doing a new story, it's a whole new problem, and it's tough to do. But if you're an artist, once you've learned how to draw, then whatever you have to draw, it's not that difficult. I do draw. I don't draw well enough to do comics, the good kind of comics in Marvel, but I can draw. And I think drawing, once you learn how, is easier than writing. And every artist in the world is going to hate me for saying that.
Max, ¿cuál es la película que más ha disfrutado de Marvel de los últimos 5 o 6 años?
Which is so far, since all the news, all Marvel movies that come out in all the what do you think of Marvel movies?
Gee, I really love them all. I like the first Spider-Man. I loved Iron Man. I think the Avengers are great. I'm not good at favorites, because I like so many things. I think all the Marvel movies are great. They'd be greater if I had a bigger role in them, but you can't do it.
Personaje favorito, no de Marvel.
What?
Favorite character, not Marvel.
Oh, what's your favorite character not a Marvel related? I know that.
Sherlock Holmes. When I was a kid, I loved Sherlock Holmes.
Recipe for a happy life.
Oh, recipe for a happy life. Knowing Max.
Well, having good friends doesn't hurt, but if you're a man, you have to be lucky enough to marry the right woman. If you're a woman, it works in reverse. And it's very important that you like the work you do. I try to tell young kids, as much as I can, who are trying to decide what they want to do in life, don't just think, if I do this, I can make more money or so. Find out what you really love to do, because then, when you're working at it, you don't feel as if you're working. It's almost like you're playing. When I'm working on a script, and I'm working with an artist who's a friend of mine, and we're dreaming up stories, and we're making up what the page will look like, and what we'll do for a cover. That's like playing. It's fun. I don't feel I'm working. So, well, that's just me, but I think everybody, if you could find work that you like to do, that's... What was the question? I forgot. I talk too much. I answered.
Okay. Ya hizo, y si puede hablar del cameo de Sepultura. No.
Don't ever say no to a fan. What did he say?
He said, "Can you please tell him your cameo in the Age of Ultron?"
In which? Oh,
Avengers 2.
no, I'm sorry. I didn't say no. I said I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to. They kill me. But I just did a cameo in a new series that's coming out. I'm not going to tell. That's coming out on television. It's called Agent Carter. I don't know if you heard about it. It's going to be great because I did the best cameo you ever saw. I think it'll be in the 4th episode. So even if you missed the first 3, that's nothing.
That's not important.
Watch the 4th episode. And remember, I told you.
Yeah, you're a superhero for them. how does it feel to be their superhero?
How do you feel? All these people, they enjoy their idol.
Well, I admire their taste.
How do you feel being idolized like that, like almost like a superhero?
It's a little hard to believe, but if you people really are fond of me, I'm delighted, I'm thrilled. It's the greatest feeling in the world to feel if you're doing some work and people enjoy it, and they enjoy you because of that. I mean, what greater satisfaction can there be? I think it's wonderful, and I'm very grateful to you for that.
¿Qué influyó en que él se convirtiera en un escritor famoso? What were the influences that he became famous?
As you can tell, even though I look like a model of physical perfection, I don't hear as well as I used to, so he repeats the question.
He's asking, what characters influenced you as a writer? Who influenced you?
Oh gosh, everything. I read everything I could lay my hands on. Jules Verne, Mark Twain, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Edgar Allan Poe, everybody. I just loved reading stories, and the more imaginative they were, the more I liked them. And as I may have mentioned before, Sherlock Holmes, I loved Sherlock Holmes. I always wanted to be as smart as Sherlock Holmes, but I never quite made it.
Cuando hizo a Peter Parker, ¿siempre lo pensó como un joven o lo pensó alguna vez como adulto?
When you made Peter Parker, when you created him, did you create him as when you created him, did you make him intentionally make him as a teenager, or you wanted him as an adult? Did you say, let me make him as a teenager?
Oh no, I wanted Peter Parker to be a teenager because, as far as I knew, there weren't any superhero strips that featured teenagers, and I thought it's about time we had one. So he was very definitely intended to be a teenager.
Okay, what was his lucky break?
Meeting me.
Yeah, I know
What
that.
was your lucky break?
What was my lucky break?
Your wife.
Well, meeting my wife was probably the luckiest, and
So cute.
No, when you made that.
I think that was it. Give me some more.
How did it feel to create the universe with Jack Kirby?
Well, how did it feel creating that incredible universe with Jack Kirby?
I'll show you why I'm such a good interview subject. Felt nice. Working with Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and Don Heck and John Romita and all of those guys, John Buscema. It was wonderful because everything that I wrote, they made it look even better when they drew it. So I was incredibly lucky because I worked with the best artists in the business. And as I say, I was lucky, I appreciated it, I enjoyed working with them. Excuse me, I wish they were still around now. That's a big one.
¿Qué diferencia? ¿Él disfruta más las películas nuevas ya que tienen mucho CGI y tecnología o las películas viejas?
He's asking in regards to,
There weren't any back in the 30s. Oh, the little series, the cartoon series?
No. The ones that Captain America, you go to the theater, they show what happens to Captain America.
Oh, those old movie serials. Well, they couldn't compare to what we have now. They were simplistic. They were too simple. They were good, but nothing can compare to the movies today. I mean, these movies that Marvel is doing today, they're masterpieces. They're enjoyed by young people, by old people, by dumb people, by smart people, by everybody. And people very often go back to buy another ticket. Let me tell you why they often buy a second ticket. May I tell them this? Very often, somebody may see a Marvel movie, and when it gets to the end, they say, I didn't see Stan's cameo. So they think maybe they had reached for some popcorn and missed it, or maybe they had sneezed and missed it. Well, naturally, everybody wants to see my cameo, so they go back to the box office and they buy another ticket. And that's why the movies make so much money. And if you believe that, this too.
Cameo favorito.
Which was his favorite one?
Yeah.
Which one so far is your favorite cameo?
My favorite one?
Yeah, so far.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you about it. It's the one that I did for the New Avengers. And remember that I told you that, and when you see it, you'll say, no wonder he said it was his favorite.
Did you tell him about your cameo for Big Hero 6?
What?
You can tell him now.
You know the movie Big Hero 6?
Yeah!
I did a cameo in it, and I swear I don't remember what it was. What did I do? What?
You were the dad.
I was my dad?
You were the dad for the kid.
I was the dad for the kid.
Did you guys see his cameo?
Yeah.
Big Hero 6?
I don't remember it. I probably did it a long time
You're-
ago. You know, they do those movies a
You're
long
the
time
father.
before you see it.
What? Oh, it hasn't come out here yet? Oh,
Well, if it hasn't come out, how can they know about it? And why did you ask me that dumb question? Can I have another volunteer?
I volunteer.
Okay.
You guys. That's you.
Oh, I'm great. Don't miss it. This is wonderful.
Funny story creating a character.
But what was the funniest story when you were creating a character?
What makes you think there were funny stories when I was creating the characters? Well, one thing I can tell you, I don't know if it's funny or pathetic. When I did Spider-Man, my publisher, I had just done the Fantastic Four, and I think I did the X-Men, and it's hard to remember the order of them. But he said, the books are selling well, give me another hero, make up another one for me. So I thought a long time, and I thought I'd like to do a teenager, and I'd like him to be able to stick to walls like an insect. That would be great. So I tried to think of a name, and I thought of Insect Man, Mosquito Man, and then I got to Spider-Man, and I thought that sounded dramatic. So, okay, I wanted a teenager who could stick to walls, and then I thought I wanted him to have a lot of personal problems, because most superheroes didn't have personal problems, so I thought that would make him really interesting. So here's the funny part. I went to my publisher, and I said, here's what I've got for you. And I told him. He said, Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. He said, first of all, a superhero can't be a teenager. A teenager can only be a sidekick. Secondly, you can't call a hero Spider-Man because people hate spiders. And finally, he can't have personal problems because he's a superhero. Don't you know what a superhero is? So that's what I had to contend with. But when my publisher wasn't looking, I put the story out anyway. In a book we were going to kill. When you kill a book, nobody cares what you put in it. So I put it in a book called Amazing Fantasy that we were killing. It sold fantastically. So a week later, a month later, my publisher came in to me and he said, hey, Stan, you remember that character Spider-Man that we both liked so much? Why don't we do a series? And that's how Spidey was born. Now you
Then how do you feel you...
Is he allowed to ask questions?
Yeah.
All right. right, he's allowed to do it.
He's asking, people are asking, how do you feel your characters, how when you created them versus what they actually look like now?
No.
Oh, well, everything keeps changing.
That's what I'm saying, from his original concept to what they are right now.
Hey, he better be quoting you correctly. Are you dissatisfied with me? Would you mind leaving?
No, he's asking, when you created your stories, how they were these problems, and what they are right now, how do you feel it changed the character?
Well, they'll always change. The new writers and the new editors are always going to make some little changes because they've got to keep your interest up. If it's the same type of story month after month, you'll get bored with it. I'm not happy when they change my characters around a lot, but I know they have to do it. And the nice thing is, after the change, they always bring them back to the way they used to be. So I don't mind it, and I think it's good business to do it. All right? Was that a satisfactory answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the man.
Down here? Well.
¿Qué lo anima a seguir trabajando, haciendo cosas, creando cosas?
What influences them to
No. What encourages?
what encourages you to keep working?
I don't call this work. I'm having a great time. In a way, I'm serious. Excuse me, I've got this thing I throat. The thing I do is so much fun. Meeting fans and talking to them and going to conventions and being in my office and talking about new movies and new television shows and new projects that I don't feel I'm working. I feel I'm just playing. Other men like to go out and play golf. I have no interest in hitting a little ball from one hole to another. But I love doing what I do, so I'm really not working. But don't tell that to my wife. She thinks I'm out here working.
Chica favorita de Marvel. Chica favorita.
What's your favorite Marvel female?
Oh gosh, all of them. I used to like Gwen Stacy, and I love Mary Jane. I love them all. I love the Black Widow. It depends how the artist draws them. If they make them beautiful enough, I love them.
¿Qué le diría a...
I'm cured.
¿Qué le diría a él mismo, a su él de 8 años?
What would you tell, if you had the opportunity to tell yourself something, if you went back in time and you were going to tell yourself something, what would it be? When you had the younger, 20 years ago, 20 years ago.
If I could tell myself something 20 years ago, what would it be? I wish I had made up Superman. I don't know how I let that get away from me. There's no end to these. That's me.
En los 60s no se hablaba de antimateria y toda la tecnología hasta que él hizo los Cuatro Fantásticos. ¿Cómo se siente él? ¿Dónde fue su influencia científica para hacer eso?
I am the biggest phony you know. I tried to pretend I knew something about science. So when I wanted to create the Fantastic Four, I said they got their powers because they was zapped by cosmic rays. I don't know what a cosmic ray is. I wouldn't know one if I saw one, but it sounds scientific. When I wanted to create the Hulk, I figured, well, I did pretty good with the cosmic ray, so I had him zapped by a gamma ray. Again, I have no idea what a gamma ray is, but again, it sounded scientific. And I had Spider-Man bitten by a Peter Parker bitten by a radioactive spider. That sounded to me very scientific. I know less about science than anybody, but if you use a few words like cosmic rays and gamma rays, people think you really know what you're talking about. I shouldn't have confessed how dumb I am.
Personaje más complejo. More complex character.
What's his favorite one?
No, which is
Most complex character? Yeah, which of all the characters you
The most complex character? Interesting. I never thought of that. Maybe Iron Man, because he's got his heart condition. He may always die at any moment. He loves women, but he never wants to get entangled with any one particular one. I like Iron Man. I sort of modeled him a little after Howard Hughes, if you remember Howard Huges. I'd say he's the most complex. Can't prove I'm wrong.
high point in his career.
Right now.
Yeah!
Iron Man was cured from his heart condition? Well, they never should have done that. I don't read the books anymore, so I don't know what's happening. I don't have time. All right. Go to too many conventions.
Okay. ¿Con qué escritor o artista le hubiera gustado colaborar o trabajar con él, pero que no ha podido?
Writer?
Writer or artist?
Which artist or writer would you like to work with? If you have
Artist or writer? Todd McFarlane would have been a good guy to work with. And Harlan Ellison, I always wished he would write a comic for me. And which writer? Well, there are no special writers I'd really like to write with, because I don't have time. I don't even have time to do my own writing, so I'm not going to start worrying about somebody else's writing. Besides, I'd always criticize it and say, that isn't right, let's do it this way, and we'd fight. So that's why I'm better off working with artists, who we fight with anyway.
Inspiration for X-Men.
What was your inspiration for the
I really wanted to do something about bigotry, to show that so many people hate people who are different than they are, and it isn't right to do that. Sometimes the people who are different than you are as good as you or better than you, or able to do good things, and you shouldn't stop them. So, yeah, that was it. It sounds corny, but I was trying to get the love thy neighbor idea across with the X-Men. And don't judge people badly just because they're different than you are. See, take this guy. He's different than I am, but I tolerate him. Not easy.
¿Hay algún personaje que haya creado, pero que falló?
Somebody funnier than me?
No. I know the answer. He says, is there a character in the Marvel universe that you created that
No. I can't think of any. And I'm happy to say that.
Su frase favorita de un superhéroe.
Which is your favorite costume?
No, phrase.
Oh. He says, what's your favorite phrase?
My favorite what?
Phrase.
Ray?
Phrase.
Frayed?
Phrase.
Frayed?
Phrase.
Spell it.
Your phrase. What's your favorite phrase? You know, like upward and onward.
Oh, phrase! Phrase. Excelsior, of course. You know, I tried to treat Marvel in the early days as if it were an advertising campaign. So I like to make up slogans like, "Welcome to the Marvel Age of Comics." Wherever you go, whatever you do, remember, make mine Marvel. Marvel marches on. I'm very corny, and I love those things. All of those phrases are my favorite.
¿Cómo era trabajar en los 60s en la industria de los cómics?
How did you work in the 70s and
In the 70s? The 60s was my favorite time because that's when I was doing all the writing. By the time the 70s came around, they made me the publisher, and I spent all my time traveling around the world, lecturing at colleges and all kinds of schools, talking about Marvel, promoting Marvel. So I think my favorite time was the 60s when I was writing the stories. But I loved the 70s also. I loved going to places like this. Only most of them were schools. They didn't have the conventions then. And just telling everybody how great Marvel was, that they'd listen. They had to listen because I wouldn't let them out of the room.
¿Qué pensó a ver a Robert Downey Jr. en los zapatos de Iron Man?
I don't think anybody in the world could play Iron Man as well as Robert Downey Jr. He is sensational. He was made to play that role. I'm probably the one guy who could have been better, but...
Of course.
¿Cuál es la razón por la que hay tantas variaciones del universo Marvel?
Oh, now you're judging? That's a good question. I'll decide what's a good question. You just hand me the books. Don't try to usurp my job, right? I'll get help from him after this. What was the good question?
Yo trabajo para él, mas I report to his wife.
He doesn't know I speak Spanish fluently.
So, él puede hablar todo esto así. Yo le llamo bien rápido, le cura todo.
That means when I think it means you're fired. What's the question?
Reason for so many variations of...
Oh, what do you think of having so many variations of the Marvel?
Having so many what?
Different universes, like in one universe,
There are zombies.
there's zombie universe.
Oh. Well, again, Marvel has been around since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s. I mean, it's 50, 60, 75 years. They've got to think of new things to keep your interest up, and that's the whole reason for it. I understand that they're going to make a female Spider-Man out of Gwen Stacy. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
I just heard of it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but she'll probably be bitten by another spider. But they have to come up with things that make you say, I can't believe it. I got to see this. See you buy the book. And then they'll make a movie of it. And, hey, speaking of that, did you know they're making a movie of the Black Panther?
Yeah!
And Humans and Ant-Man and every one of them. Doctor Strange.
Miss Marvel.
Exciting time.
Si fuera a crear un personaje, un superhéroe mexicano,
He's asking because if you had to create a Mexican superhero, what would it be?
Damn good. I am creating, I didn't specify that he's Mexican, a Latin superhero from South America. And I'm doing it now, and the book will probably, or the movie, I'm doing it as a movie actually. We probably need almost a year, but I'll be announcing it on the internet little by little, you'll find out. It's going to be great, like no other character I've done.
¿de dónde salió Stripperella?
What was the inspiration for
I wanted to, for once, do a comic book I'd like to look at.
Historia favorita de Spider-Man.
What's your favorite Spider-Man
Oh, I don't even know. There are so many. I think maybe the origin. I thought the first issue was really a masterpiece. But they were all good. I mean, Spider-Man has been a great... You know, Spider-Man is so well known and famous all around the world. I mean, he's as well known as Mickey Mouse and Coca-Cola, and it's amazing.
Yes, it is.
I like that character. Where does this go?
Oh, I'm sorry, right there.
Boy, I'm glad my name isn't Engelbert Humperdinck. Okay. Have I answered every single thing anybody could ever want to know?
El personaje con el que mejor se identifica.
Oh, that's easy. What's the character that you identify the most with?
Well, whoever is the best looking, the smartest, the most heroic. Who's that? Iron Man? Okay, Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. was so afraid I'd play the role, but I said, it's okay, Bobby.
Villano favorito. Villano favorito.
Oh, I know that one. Dr. Doom.
Oh, Dr. Doom. I'm going to tell you something about Dr. Doom. Why do you call him a villain? Here's this poor guy. All he wants to do is rule the world, right? Now, I'm going to ask you a very serious question. This is not a joke. There's no law against wanting to rule the world, is there? I mean, you could walk up to a policeman and you could say, "Officer, I want to rule the world." He can't arrest you. If you want to rule the world, you know, fine, go rule it. So I don't know why they consider Dr. Doom a villain. He's just a frustrated guy who wants to rule the world, and he hasn't succeeded yet. He's a nice guy. He'd probably be a great guy for a meeting like this. Ask him questions, and he'd give you answers you wouldn't expect to hear. You think I'm going mad?
Yes.
Okay. Un cambio, una solicitud, no haber visto fotos, acabo todos ustedes tienen fotos abajo, nos dedicó muchísimo tiempo a responder casi todas las preguntas de todos ustedes, entonces vamos a darle un gran aplauso, vamos a darles las gracias.
Hey, thanks all of you. You're a great audience, a great group, and that's why I'm going to say to you, Excelsior!